This is 5 Live Breakfast. Your call.
Just a reminder, the people who burned the poppies were arrested. They've been bailed by Metropolitan Police. They'll be questioned further in December. We're going to speak to Geraldine, who's in Victoria, in Inner London, and Catherine in Swindon, Mark in Portsmouth, and Tommy in Plymouth. Good morning, all. Khalid, you're going to come back on something.
Yeah, Nick, it was just, when the EDL first kind of came about, I really made an effort to kind of have some dialogue with them. And it quickly became obvious to me that actually they weren't interested. And whilst they espouse that they are against Islamic extremism, actually everything that they do and everything that they say just points very much to the fact that they are against the Muslim community as a whole. And it is as if the Muslim community are the baddies at the moment. And if the Muslim community went away, then there would be somebody else there.
Hey, Mark, you back that up, don't you?
Well, no, actually, well, kind of, yeah. My real point in this situation, I believe if we had a government that defended the identity of our country and defended the Britishness and the Englishness of our country, I don't really think these horrible, disgusting organisations like the EDL would exist. I just think the government show no backbone in backing up after the country.
So they've sort of got into a vacuum. Tommy in Plymouth, you're in the EDL. Is it a horrible, despicable, vile organisation?
No, I don't think it is, actually. I've been a member of the English Defence League for 1 year. I attend all the demonstrations, and I live in the southwest of Plymouth. It's a long journey. Normally we take about 20 people, and most of the trouble I've seen at demonstrations have been caused by the UAF, who are a bunch of people from, students. A lot of these people, they don't work.
Unite against fascism.
Unite against fascism. I've worked all my life. I've worked very hard. My wife works too. We have children. We bring them up in the right way. And the English Defence League, and from my point of view, it's nothing about religion, and they're not racist. They invite all people to join them. I've met some fantastic people since I've been with these guys, and I don't see...
They invite Muslims or Asians to join them?
Of course, yes.
They do?
They do. It's not...
How many belong to them?
The thing is, the English...
Sorry, how many belong to them?
How many?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. I couldn't give you that information.
Got any? Is it zero or is there some?
Sorry?
Is it zero or is there some?
There's many ethnic minorities met at EDL demos.
Aren't you feeling? I mean, Khalid, you firmly believe, as many do, that they're just. What would you say to Tommy about What would you say to Tommy, Khalid, about the fueling of hatred? Tommy, listen.
I would say that, the way many of us are against extremism on any side, and that the way to combat that is to actually talk with open communities and open dialogue, and to develop an understanding of each other and work together for a common problem. What you don't do is you don't go out onto streets outside a mosque, with placards and with hatred spewing out.
I haven't seen anybody in the English Defence League go outside any mosque.
Oh, come on. There are various examples of the EDL protesting outside mosques.
I've never seen
not just outside mosques, but at a time when they know that all the Muslims are coming for a Friday prayer.
They're not.
That is provocative. That is very provocative, and it doesn't help anyone.
Muslim extremists.
I wish that was the case, because you know what? If it was the case, I would join you.
It's nothing about religion.
I would join you. But unfortunately, your demonstrations show otherwise. Look at some of the footage from the demonstration. What are English values? What are English values? Tell me what are English values.
English values.
Tommy, okay, let's clear the decks. Let's clear the decks for this. Tommy, what are English values?
English is living up in a Christian country, living by English laws, not Sharia law. There are now, so I'm led to believe, over 90 Sharia law courts in this country. Why can't these people go to our courts? and live by our laws.
Is that your definition of what it means to be English and British?
I've got nothing against any person, no matter what colour they are or what religion they are. But any person that I welcome. I work with a lot of Polish people, Slovakians, Latvians.
You're not answering the question. You're not.
It's quite. Some would say, Tommy, it's quite a narrow definition.
It's not. This is not a racist thing. It's not about religion. It's against the Muslim extremists.
So what is
against pure English values?
Pure.
The way we live.
Right.
So define
the way we are.
Okay, Khaled. Back to Khaled.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, okay, I'm very comfortable. I'm English. I'm British.
You don't have to justify. You don't have to justify this, Khaled. You don't. You really don't have to justify it. We know this. You know. You know. You don't have to. I feel embarrassed that you have to come on the radio and say that you're English and you're British. You know. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But I would love us to sit and to define what these values are, so that when people say to me that we want English values, because I see this all the time. That we want English values, fine. Let's see, what are these English values?
You hear it all the time, but only from... you hear it... who do you hear it from? You hear it from Tommy, right?
Yes, that's right.
So, when you say you hear it all the time, it's as bad as... It's not as bad as Tommy saying these Muslims are trying to... it's the same, it's a perception, isn't it?
It's when I come on the media, which I do at a reasonable frequency.
As a voice of reason.
I'm often asked, to put that forward, and I honestly, I know you've had a discussion before on British values and what the great things are about Britain, and I'm all for that, and I would like us to define what those are, because I imagine that 90% of us would come straight into those, and the other 10% of us living in Britain, I don't just mean the Muslim community here, I mean the 10% of us living in Britain would actually fall outside it.
Can I make a point here, please?
Let's draw those.
Yeah, go on. Who's that?
It's Mark in Portsmouth. Why should we have to define what is Britishness? Why should we feel we have to defend it? Why should we not be able to just live our lives?
So Britishness is not having to defend what Britishness is.
Exactly, but you sort of you get these situations where, unfortunately, at the moment, where we're forced in our society to that in some circumstances it's not acceptable to celebrate the sort of Christmas as we would like to, or sort of Easter as we would like to. We're forced to accept that
Is that reality or is it perception?
It's reality. You hear it all the time on the news. You hear it all the time. Every Christmas you hear it.
Sometimes you scratch sometimes, Mark, you scratch beneath the surface of these stories, and there's not really as much to it as you thought.
I just feel. I mean, I've travelled a little bit into sort of a few Middle Eastern countries, just years ago, and there was no way on earth that you could go there as an English person or a European person or a Christian person. And put your views across to them. You had to live in their society the way they want it.
Why is that relevant to this discussion?
Why it's relevant is because at the end of the day, if you go and live in a different country, a different society, you should want to integrate into that society. You shouldn't be sort of saying, okay, we want to change it and we want to have our way of living in a different country.
A powerful point. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tommy. Khaled, as ever, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And we will come to our many other callers forthwith. It's 0500 909 693. Extremism. Who's fueling who? We're talking about the English Defence League this morning and claims by the police that they are fueling extremism and acting as a kind of recruiting sergeant for Muslim extremism. Chris has some weather for us.
Yeah, Nicky.